how do I know when I'm stressed? I'm 54, and it took me probably till last year to figure this out, to really listen and be aware of my body's reactions to a stressor. There can be like a deep stress, like when my dad got sick with cancer. I didn't actually feel stressed, and I'm gonna kind of wave my hands around here, but I got hives all over my torso. That was a sign from my body telling me, hello, you are deeply stressed. I think a big part of how I react to stress is I'm trying to take back control through these actions.
It's really interesting to hear you say that because I feel like for me, I surrender to the chaos.
That's
That when I'm
interesting.
not as stressed is when I can do the things of taking control. When I'm
Oh,
more so, I have to surrender to the chaos that exists and almost be like, it exists for a reason. Hello, everybody, and welcome
hello.
to Katy Vigie Studio. Katy and I have just been having a quick chat before we started recording. Thus, the reason that you often find us laughing a little bit as we come into this.
Yes, yes, that's right.
So today's topic, I have seen it written as de-stressing, but as that can be interpreted as falling into stress. I like to talk about it as ways that we find help us to find our calm or to chill, to relax. I'm really curious what Gen Z and Gen Alpha call that.
Oh, God.
I don't
Every time
know.
you say those Gen things, I have to think, who are these people? I know up
So,
to X.
so, oh dear Lord. The people after us are millennials.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
So
Okay.
you've spent a lot of time with those people.
Have I?
They were they
Millennials?
were born in 1981 is normally the earliest date given for them. So yeah, I say 1982, but the most places say
Oh, okay.
1981.
My brother
So
is
yeah,
a millennial. Must be.
yes.
He's
Your
82.
brother is technically a millennial. Not
Okay.
technically, full on. He's a millennial.
Full on. Okay.
Mhm. And then if you think about my nephew Marcos, he's fairly
Yes.
solidly Gen Z. He's at tail end of it, but fairly solidly.
Okay.
And then
All right.
Gabriel is a Zalpha. So he
Oh,
is
here
the
we go
last
with your little made up names. So Alpha and something with a Z.
and Gen Z. So he is literally the last year accepted as Gen Z. So he's spending a lot of time with Gen Alpha, which Gen Alpha was born starting in 2013. So
Okay.
when I think about, hey, I want to ask what they would say about, like we might say chillax. What might they say?
Yes.
I would I could probably just turn to Gabriel because he straddles the two to ask. Just like, I mean, your brother straddles, he's close enough to Gen X
Oh,
that he probably would have an idea what Gen X would say at the same time of knowing what his own generation would say.
okay. I
And
can't
that's what
wait to hear what's the next label. I'm sure
beta.
you know.
Yes.
Oh,
They said,
beta. They must love that.
well, they're infants, so I don't know that they've had a chance to weigh in as of
They're
yet.
not going to like that when they get older,
No.
unless the meaning changes.
Well, I think it's interesting that generational names come about through journalists, through researchers, through like it's not like even a committee. It's like what ends up taking off. And so like even when you think of us, you know, they used to call us the slacker generation. Um
Oh,
I think there were other
yeah.
less like even more derogatory names that they
Yeah.
called us, but they did call us the slacker generation for a long time. And
Mm.
I don't know how I know that there's a story and I remember reading it, but it just didn't stick with me. It came out of a book that we ended up being called Gen X. Um,
Oh, I think I remember that book.
mhm. There's a whole book
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
And But
Yes.
I digress. We are discussing
Yeah,
generations again, which
sorry.
we will probably do numerous times because, to Katie's point, started is too strong a word. I actually, mid part of my career was as a marketer. And so I got really into, what do we call the generations? And then even as somebody who's interested in research and astrology, I've often been interested in what do we call different cohorts of people. And these
Mm-hmm.
generational titles are just meant to be a shorthand reference to these generations. But to Katie's very valid point, not everybody knows what the shorthand means. So I'm
Right.
just curious what the younger people, like teens and 20s, would have said to what are the ways that we find that help us to relax or find our center or be able to be focused. Because there isn't just one way of not being stressed. You cannot be stressed and be perfectly happy. You cannot be stressed and not necessarily be happy, but be okay,
I
middling.
think there's different kinds of stress, right, that you're
Yes.
reacting to, because it could be a work stress, relationship stress, money, health. It could be something external, like you go outside and it's really loud and like grating, or you're at a party with really loud people. That's stressful. There can be like major life changes, like losing your job. That losing a job would be financial, but also life changing. You move. I know someone who can't stand moving. I mean, it is stressful, but I can manage it, I think, better than my friend. Um, but it's like it stresses his entire system. Um, then there's obviously internal, and I think I have this. It's like the negative self-talk sometimes, and it's just everything's in the head, and you're just sort of almost talking down to yourself. I don't think you do this, but I do this to myself
I
sometimes.
consciously worked, I think, to move away from it.
Mm,
Um, the negative self-talk, I don't know exactly when I discovered this, but I knew that I've often been, and I often will continue to fall into, where I'm around a lot of folks that others would describe as high achievers or type A, which are not always one and
mm-hmm,
the same, but they often do overlap. And
mm-hmm,
what I found, and this might just be my own little thing, but there was a fear factor that
hmm,
underlied a lot of what I saw with high achieving, not everybody, I don't want to put this out there, but so many of the high achievers, whether it was letting their family down or even just letting themselves down,
yep,
a fear factor that ran through things. And I had experienced that myself.
mm,
And I very distinctly recall more than anything, I'd been leaning this direction probably since the time I went to college. I had started leaning this direction, but I hadn't quite gotten there. But I determined when I was in energy healing school that
mm,
I wanted to do things from a place of want, of desire, of joy,
mm,
um, and not a place of fear. And this was for myself. Like I wasn't trying to get anybody else on there, and that was the flip for me that really began the shift. And I won't say I don't have a negative self-talk. I do have it. Um, I find it is shorter in duration now than it
mm-hmm.
was when I was younger. I find I implement some of the stuff that we're probably going to talk about to mitigate it for myself. And one of the things that I don't actively do is I believe words have power. And
Yes.
so I I do believe in stating what is bothering you and letting it out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't subscribe to continuing to have that negative thought
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And so, again, I think I can very much come across as if I don't. And a part of that is that when it comes up, I actively try and counteract it
Yeah.
with another thought, whether it's an acceptance
Yeah.
thought, whether it's you're doing the best you can, whether it's talking to somebody else who might say that to me kinds of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So looking at ways to make sure that I'm not layering it on for myself. I just wanted to note one other thing about stressors. And some of this comes from having worked in a center that worked with people with autism, is that some of the stressors that, for me, I might just find them annoying. I actually learned that for some of the folks that were on the spectrum, it could be debilitating depending on what it was. And so, like, one of the ones that for me is annoying is like the feel of fabric or like a tag
Oh,
in clothes.
yeah.
Again, this isn't for everybody on the spectrum, but I found, especially for some of these younger kids, that kind of thing could really derail them. The change in a like you've made a schedule and it
Mm-hmm.
has to change.
Oh, I hate that.
I am somebody who can often flow with that fairly easily. The one place where I don't do very well with that is, you go into a restaurant, they give you a menu, they tell you what the
Yeah.
specials are, then you go to order and they tell you they don't have it.
Oh, you're
That is,
funny in restaurants, though, aren't you?
I am
You
very,
have a little bit of a thing there.
I have a bit of the tism in restaurants, is the way I would describe it. I mean, I'm not saying that other people would. I'm not saying anybody would say I am, but in restaurants, if you're going to come and tell me what the specials are, know whether they're
Here
still
we go.
available. If it's on the menu and it's not available and you are the wait staff, please tell me. Please tell me it's not available. Cross it off. Whatever you got to do.
Also, you don't share. Remember?
Unless I tell you that I'm going to share. My default
it's
is...
a thing with this woman.
Yes. My default is I've ordered it. I want to eat it. I want to enjoy it. If I've had enough, I may share a bit. Now, there are occasions where if you ask me ahead of time and I tell you, yes, I'm willing to share, I will share. But that's not my default.
No, I distinctly remember it was like 10 years ago. We were in New York City with your sister, Nettie, and we went to a Thai restaurant downtown, somewhere in Manhattan. And I'm very like, let's all order and share. That's pretty normal. And Nettie, your sister, was like, yeah, that's great. Fine. What do we get? What do we get? This one sitting there. Nope, I'm not sharing. I'm going to order my dish. We're like, okay, that's fine. Yep. No
Yes.
sharing.
I'm very upfront about it.
Yep.
But I just
She's
wanted to
very
point out,
upfront.
I just wanted to point out some of the things like the fabric that you're wearing. To your point about noise, like when I lived in New York City, there's noise all the time. Like the noise of the subway, the subway had to be screeching in to a halt for it to really register, kind of thing. Now I find myself going into the city and it's like regular coming in and I'm like, oh my God, that's so fucking loud. How do people deal with this? Or like I lived blocks from a fire station. You could hear it. I lived where, I tuned this out fairly easily, but the Long Island Railroad going by, it would like shake the apartment. None of these things bothered me while I lived in the city. I didn't even hear them after a while. Like people would go, oh, that's really loud to like the train. I was like, oh yeah, don't notice it. Or they'd be like, wow, there's a lot of sirens. I'm like, oh, because there was also the police station at the other end of the street that I lived on. So you not only had fire, but you also had police. Didn't notice it.
I think there's a a bit of a difference with kind of environmental noise that you get used to because you're constantly exposed to it. Because I used to live in Korea, we used to live right next to a Buddhist temple. And every morning at 6 a.m., ding dong, ding dong. And after a week, I don't even hear it. And my grandmother stayed in that room and she was like, "Oh my God, what's going on with the bells?" But I totally forgot because I'm so used to it. But I know for me, what causes a lot of stress, immediate, acute episodes of stress is like a really loud restaurant. Because in my family, we have a weird hearing thing on my dad's side where we're very sensitive to noise. So my uncle always had to wear some ear plugs when he'd go out because it was so jarring to the system. I'm not at that point, but actually I get very agitated in very noisy restaurants and environments.
You might really
So,
appreciate, because that's a common thing amongst people on the spectrum. And you might actually appreciate there's these
mm,
great earbuds that I'll try and find the name so we can post it along with this. But they have this like little dial that kind of
mm,
tunes out some of the background stuff, but you can still hear the people that you're with without it being
yes.
completely dampened. And it has like this little dial kind of thing. I've never worn them, so this is my understanding of them. But a number of the people I've seen online and parents of children on the spectrum have said it's incredibly helpful
Mm,
because it allows for focusing on maybe the noises that you want
yeah.
to be able to
The
hear.
person, I think the person talking to you, it amplifies that and then depresses the other noise.
Yeah, the
Yes.
background kind of noise. So
Yeah.
um, I just think that's amazing kind of thing.
Mm,
But I was pointing out some of the minor, well, what I view as minor, because I know that for some people, like for you in a restaurant or for your uncle, that may not feel minor in that moment. You know, like when I
oh,
say
yeah.
minor, I just mean it's not necessarily the kind of thing that maybe the general populace thinks of as a stressor. Um, I think there's a lot of different things like that. And I think there's also an aspect of stressors building on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, you might be totally fine with a change in a schedule, except when it's the third or fourth or fifth or whatever the number is that tips you over, you know,
Mm,
like,
mm-hmm.
you may be totally fine with a certain amount of background noise until it gets to a certain level. Um, you might be okay with a tag you don't like, but then you add like an itchy wool sweater on top of that, and both things just cannot exist. You know, so I I wanted to just put out there that there are moments we might not notice them, and there are other times when they are very noticeable, and when we are overwhelmed or at least stressed by them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're discussing ways that, and we're being very particular in this point of ways that we've heard or we ourselves have used to de-stress, this is not meant to be an exhaustive exercise of every way that anybody ever has done this. Because I think there's a lot of different ways that people find to bring down their levels of stress.
When we brought up this topic, I was trying to think of little things that I do every day because I don't always think about it. But um, actually I started with how do I know when I'm stressed?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I mean, I'm 54 and it took me probably till last year to figure this out, to really listen and be aware of my body's reactions to a stressor. So one major thing obviously is if you're reacting to different levels of stress. So there can be like a deep stress, like when my dad got sick with cancer. I didn't actually feel stressed, and I'm gonna kind of wave my hands around here. Like I didn't feel the stress in my head, but I got hives all over my torso. So I was obviously that was a sign from my body telling me, "Hello, you are deeply stressed." But I didn't mentally or emotionally really feel it. like you would if, have a breakup with somebody, you're so sad and you're depressed. Like that's obviously a stress, but it was a different kind of deep rooted high stress. But just on a kind of like a daily stress. I mean, I got stressed this weekend, as you know. So I realized I was stressed because I was hyper organizing. I was hyper scheduling and hyper writing everything out for the next week. I also I know I'm stressed if I can't focus on something, if I'm trying to do a reading for a class and I'm reading the same sentence over and over again, I'm stressed. Um, Another one is, muscle pain, like especially around here, I get kind of it hurts. I'm not breathing steadily. Um, but I have to say, I don't think it was until my 50s that I really started noticing my reactions. I would just push through, usually in the past. Be like, oh, well, I'll get over it. Or just keep going. Um, and I don't think that's particularly was helpful. So I feel a lot better now that I can read the signs, I guess.
I have similar signs. And I think part of it is that we've talked about this before, but we both can be very cerebral. So if
Mm,
my mind isn't actively thinking it's stressed, um, even if my emotions might be stressed, or I will feel it in my body.
mm,
Um, and one of the ways that I always think of it as my guides trying to give me a clue is small injuries to my hand. And I'm
mm,
talking a paper cut. I'm talking hitting the hand wrong, like a bruise. Um, little things, not a major injury, not like just little. And I'm like, I've learned, and this I've probably picked up maybe in my late 30s. Again, maybe because I picked it up, it doesn't happen as much anymore. But I started to notice that, it'd be like a hangnail that would suddenly become like more than what it was. Like I would notice things on my hands. Um, Similar to you, my allergies act up.
mm,
So hives or itchy skin.
mhm.
I don't get hives as much. I get like a hive, but the skin around it will be
Oh,
itchy.
okay.
So I
Yeah.
don't
Mm.
end up with, it's rare that I end up with multiple bumps.
Like
It's
a
normally
mass
one.
of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not fun.
I,
Yeah.
I, yeah, I can't say that I've had that, but my allergies definitely act up.
Mm,
Um, and I think the other thing to your point about like, if I can schedule and stick to a schedule, I have a certain amount of stress, but I'm doing okay. But if I have a schedule, I can't stick to it, it takes me into another level of stress. And I will
mm,
oftentimes become aware of it, but I do have a tendency like you to push through. And I will
mhm,
see the effects on my body. So, like the most recent one was graduating from social work school. I was doing great until probably the last semester because I hadn't taken a summer off. And I was like, I needed a break, but there were no breaks to be had at this point. I was
mm.
pushing straight through. And I ended up with my feet all messed up. Like,
Your feet.
yeah, like a foot fungus, like feet messed up. Like I
Oh.
wasn't even doing anything that would necessarily require that or have it come out. But I'm just saying I notice it physically a
Mm-hmm,
lot
mm-hmm.
more. I know one for you, Katie, that you didn't mention is when you can't eat. You forget to
Yeah,
eat. Guys,
yeah, yeah.
she's been telling me this since at least her 20s. I have never once in my life
Yeah.
forgotten to eat. I have chosen not to eat. I have not been hungry and not eaten. But this concept of
No,
forgetting to eat.
I'm starving and I don't have, I
Yeah.
don't eat. It's not like a weight thing. I'm busy. I can't be bothered. It's there at some point. I'll get to it. Push through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll ask her, did you eat? Oh no, I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I don't. My mom is in her 70s, and in her 70s, she has forgotten to eat. I still don't understand that either. And her and my mama in New York, both in their 70s, have told me, "Oh, you'll get there." Bonnie telling me I will get there, I'm like, maybe, but I I'm in my um I the concept of forgetting to eat boggles my mind. So
Mm,
I can note stress though through an increase of sugar intake.
yeah.
That's a little bit more mine.
Yeah.
So, like my folks that I know who like to drink their wine or their gin or their Negronis or their martinis
Martinis.
might notice an uptick in their alcohol intake. I My alcohol intake isn't that much to begin with, but normally if I'm any
No.
kind of stressed or upset, it goes down even further. But sugar goes up.
In what
Candy,
form?
candy, baked goods. I'll even go to pasta and breads. Like it's just
Huh.
non-alcoholic forms, but
Hmm.
pretty much just anything else.
Okay.
Like I'm not a it has to be pastries or it has to be candy.
Mhm.
Like there's people who are like, "Oh, I have to have my bread." I'm like, "I can go ages without having bread." But
Mhm.
if I'm
Mhm.
in one of those phases, I might crave it. Same with pasta. I'm not a huge pasta person. I can go ages without it, but I might be more inclined to it. Um,
Would you say that's a stress eating or is this specifically sugar intake?
it tends to be more sugar intake because
Mm.
when I'm stressed, I actually don't eat things that are good for me more. And that's why I say it's a sugar intake.
So no broccoli.
Yeah, it's like I'm not stress eating in the sense of like you put a big huge steak and I'm going to finish it. I won't finish the steak, but I will have room for dessert.
Mm, I
And so
see.
sometimes I might end up eating less of the things that are good for you when I'm
Yeah.
stressed.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I specifically think about it as sugar intake.
Hmm,
But that's a
okay.
throughput for me. Like I'm a sugar
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Yeah. You are a sugar
So
person.
that one can be a little bit harder to parse. There's normally that
Mm,
plus something else going on that
yeah.
will indicate for me. I think
Okay.
the hardest one was perimenopause, because our sleep gets disrupted so much
Oh, yeah.
that when I
Yeah.
was younger, sleep disruption was a clue. Now it's not quite so much because I can be perfectly okay and just have a night
Mm.
that I don't sleep very well.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Yep. It's not an indicator anymore
Mm-mm. But it
for
was
me.
when you were younger, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was younger, it was. It's just not anymore. I'm like, oh, I didn't sleep well last night. Oh, well, par for the course.
Yeah. I just roll with it now.
Hmm.
I just have to
Did I
deal
sleep
with it,
enough to
manage
function?
it.
I did. On we go.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay. So, what are some of the things you do if you notice, or even
Yes.
in order to avoid it? What are some of the things that you do to keep the
So
stress?
I do a few things. So my mother teaches Japanese tea ceremony and I help load the car. She does this 3 days a week. And I cut her flowers for her to bring. It's not a major part of tea ceremony, obviously, but it's something nice that they have in the background. Because it's a very seasonal art. So you like to have whatever is growing. So we have a little backyard, nothing fancy. So I really enjoy going out and hanging out with the plants. So I go out and I look for, good contenders to be taken in, and I clip them and I stick them in a little thing for her container to take. And then I actually also make sure we have flowers for the front door area. We have a Japanese vase and we have a vase on our dining room table. So I'm the one that always makes sure the flowers, or whatever's growing and or some leafy greens or something that looks pretty. And I'll make sure there's something fresh flowers in the house. I notice that my nervous system gets really calm when I do that. And I think also I notice just remember I was talking about the hives with my dad. When he got sick and came and I moved home to be with him, I was pruning our bushes every day, basically. And I don't know where I picked this up because I had never touched a plant in my life before that. But it's something about being with plants was really therapeutic, I guess, for me, even with the hives. So that's something I do every day. I keep an eye on the flowers. I go outside into the yard. I go walk. I do like a little walk. I may not even like touch it. I just make sure how everyone's doing. Keep an eye on the buds. I just started a little herb garden. It's something about that interaction helps me quite a bit, and it shifts my energy. So if I'm a little bit like grouchy when I get up, I'll go outside, and it does actually shift. Does something.
I have attempted on numerous occasions to be a plant mama, to actually grow herbs. This just reminds me, my paternal grandfather was a farmer.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And he had 7 children. My father was third from the youngest. And my grandfather took my father aside and said, "Son, you have a lot to commend you. You have a lot of skills. You're incredibly intelligent. Farming is not going to be your path. You need to find something else." I think if my grandfather was with me, he'd be having a similar conversation with me. I don't know if it's a lack of patience. I don't get what you describe of that soothing. I actually feel more anxious. Where I do feel soothed is with trees that I don't have to take care of.
I can't stand trees. I mean, no offense to trees, but I am suspicious of them.
I'm highly allergic to most of their pollen, but trees I can stand near a tree, look out and see a tree. Trees bring out what you describe for me, that
Really?
level of calm.
So you like forests?
I haven't
Do you
done
like
a lot
forests?
in forests.
Do you like walking in
when
forests? I dislike it
I don't
very
I don't
much.
know that I've walked in them. I mean, I remember going to the Black Forest as a little kid, but we were in a car. I lived in the Pacific Northwest, and I always lived near trees. I think the least close to trees I ever lived was in that apartment we had in Fremont. And there were still trees just on the other side, on the
So
main drag.
it's just being around trees or
Yes,
like a
because I don't have to
park.
take care of them. Trees are not something I have to take care of. And having a plant, there's a certain amount of need to care for it that makes it not soothing to me.
That is very true.
So that is not soothing to me. It's another thing to care for. Trees, at least my experience of trees, has been in situations where I was not required to do anything for them.
But it has to be more than that. Just not caring.
I'm sure there is.
There
I mean,
must
there's
be something you're getting out of the experience of the.
Well, yeah,
tree
I feel their root
proximity.
system. They're
Mm.
grounding. They also are their energy is calming and soothing. Um,
Hmm. I'm
they
surprised you haven't walked in a forest or like forest bathe.
I'm a city girl.
Mm.
So like there's a beautiful rose garden um in Hartford, like West Hartford. It's lovely to walk through. There's some but my favorite part of it are the big trees with benches underneath them.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. And
Huh.
what I loved about the street that I lived on in Forest Hills was the trees along on my walk home. There's trees from both directions. And I used to say hi
Yeah.
to the trees. And I would
Oh,
find by the time I got home, I had relaxed. Like
oh,
even if I had a
really?
really stressful day at work. Yeah. Saying hi to the trees
Wow.
was like, and it wasn't, I didn't always touch them.
Mm.
It was just walking. Sometimes it was just walking under their branches. There are two cherry trees actually in front of the building where I have my
Mm-hmm.
apartment. Just having those there at the entrance to the building. And I don't know, maybe we lived when my sisters were born, we lived in front of there were like these dorms, and I think it was for the women who clean the officers. I don't know, I was little, but next to that, there was like a mini cherry orchard, at least that's what it seemed like to me. There were several cherry trees. I
Hmm.
have distinct memories of playing instead of making mud pies, making cherry blossom pies, like make believe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe that, and I'm highly allergic to cherry pollen.
Mm.
So I find it really fascinating that um, I find that so soothing. But what you describe of like just going
Mm.
out and checking on them, whatever, I don't
Yeah.
like my efforts into growing herbs, abysmal, abysmal failures.
Yeah, mine is pretty hit or miss, but I'm trying.
But I mean, I literally can look out and there's a huge tree behind me and there's a whole bunch of trees back that way. So like that is just soothing to me, the trees
That's
being
very interesting.
close by. So I've never done that. Again, I didn't walk very much. I've been to the Redwoods and that was probably the most
Mm.
peaceful part of California for me. It was phenomenal.
Mm.
Just, it felt like the way sometimes people describe being high.
Hmm.
That's what being amongst the redwoods felt like, because it was so relaxing.
That's a good segue into my next de-stressing activity, which is movement when you're
Mm.
walking. So when I am stressed, I do like a fast walk. So I get my heartbeat over 100 beats per minute. Another thing I do is, well, I do yoga every day, but if I am agitated or anxious for some reason, I'll do a kind of easy yoga stretching. I did one this morning just to stretch it out, and I'm going to plug a really good yoga teacher I like, Gustavo Padron. And you know why I like him? So he did like a 30-day yoga challenge, like try and do one every day. And I like him because it's like you have a cheerleader every morning. Because he's like, you are enough and you are, great. And sometimes, you're kind of like, oh, maybe a little hokey, but I go back to it a lot because sometimes you just want to hear it from even, I mean, I don't know him and it's a recorded class, but I still feel like he's talking to me and he's like, don't look, there's nothing, don't look down. There's nothing look down there. Look up, you know, head held high, babe. And I'm like, yeah, head held high. So I think for me, movement is pretty important for varying levels of stress intensity.
I think movement is incredibly healthy way to
Mm,
process stress. Um, I think like any of the things we talk about, moderation, like finding your balance point is good. And say that because I'm going to discuss that for me, giving myself permission to be still,
mm,
to not talk or write or actively have to think, um, have often been my way of navigating through stress.
yeah.
So, and for the longest time, I was like, that is not healthy. Like, you need to move. It is true. And this is why I prefaced it with moderation and balance point, because we were talking earlier about the negative feedback loop. And what I found was when I
Hmm.
tried to force myself to do something that didn't feel right in that moment, that just added another level of stress for me.
Yeah.
So when I was able to give myself permission to be still, to be non-interactive, I think they're calling it an outrovert. I used to be extremely extroverted when I was younger. Now I like and I think even when I was younger, I liked a certain amount of time alone. But um, I still get energy from talking to people, from being around people, from interacting. But I need time on my own. And when I started giving myself permission to take that and to not beat myself up about it, it helped to bring down my levels. Now, what I will say is I know I would do better if I added in some
Mm,
movement that is not of the variety of you must go do this, but is, to your point, go take a tree bath. Fine, I don't have a forest. Go, walk amongst your trees,
hmm.
um, whatever it is for you, but finding a way to incorporate movement. I truly admire the fact that Katy does yoga, if not every day, almost every day. Like, it's something I truly admire. And I have, without success so far, attempted to be like, yes, let's do that. It hasn't happened yet.
You should
And that's
try Gustavo's 30-day challenge because I've been doing yoga 15 years, and up until last November when I did his challenge, I was like a 3 times a week yoga person. Now I am a every single day yoga person. You should try it.
I've had the most success normally when I worked. So when I worked at Citibank, they had a yoga instructor who came in, and it was a break from the regular because it was at lunchtime-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a break from the regular day. So I did it regularly then. It was like twice a week. And the other
Oh,
time that I did Tai Chi and yoga when I was in energy healing school. They had the classes in the morning before classes began. Again, that was 5 times a week. I'm sorry, 5 weeks a year. And again, I think it was 2 classes for each of
mm,
those weeks. But those are the most successful I've been for any sort of regular, and they were with other people.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I may need to, and my brother-in-law actually has a place that he goes and does yoga.
Oh,
Um, I haven't joined him. I don't know if I will, but I do know that giving myself permission to be still
yes.
brings down my stress level. I'm not saying it brings up my health level, but bringing down your stress can help your health because it can help your cortisol levels. So that for me, and this is one of the things I love about Katy and I is that we are often opposite sides. of a line. So where she is most healthy and has lower stress levels when she's regularly doing her yoga, I may find that place. Maybe it'll happen in this next year. But I do know that up until this point, when I gave myself space to just be where I was without pushing myself to be someplace else, it often brings down my stress.
I'm a big movement proponent for myself, for sure.
Mhm.
But I agree with you because I think that giving permission to yourself to stop and be still is powerful. And I think there are times when I'm frazzled. Like there's a lot going on. I have to organize a lot of things. I have deadlines and I feel like it's kind of spinning out of control a little. I feel like it's spinning and my head is spinning and I know I'm stressed at that point. So to you, what you're saying, I stop. I'm like, I'm out. It can be for 30 minutes. I'll watch a TV show. I'm like, it's okay. I don't have to tackle this right now because number one, I'm too frazzled to tackle it effectively. And I'm just going to be spinning my wheels. And so I take myself out of my head and I kind of I distract it by I'll watch a TV show or I'll watch a, you know, I don't even know what I do. Go outside and look at the plants. Um,
You've also talked about cooking.
yes, I do some cooking. Like you though, I do have to be a little bit in the mood to do it. So I think I've noticed when I was thinking about doing this podcast and I was writing down the ways that I manage or I try to de-stress once I'm in the stress mode. I realized what I'm doing is I'm trying to take control. So what I'll do is I'll start tidying the room. I'll start tidying my desk. I'll start organizing things. Cooking helps because I feel like I'm in control because I've got the ingredients, I've got the things I'm supposed to do. Like, I think a big part of how I react to stress is I'm trying to take back control through these actions. Even the movement stuff, I think taking the walk, in a way, I'm taking myself out of that frazzled because I have music and I feel like I'm taking control of my health. I'm not in danger, but of losing my health, but it's like I'm taking control in that moment. And I think that is a lot of what I'm doing. And I don't think I realized that until I was getting ready for this podcast.
It's really interesting to hear you say that because I feel like for me, I surrender to the chaos.
Hmm, that's
That when
interesting.
I'm not as stressed is when I can do the things of taking control. When I'm
Oh,
more so, I have to surrender to the chaos that exists and almost be like, it exists for a reason. We're
hmm,
gonna let it we're gonna let it run its course. And trying, at least this is for me, trying to control it only makes me feel more stressed. So yeah,
hmm,
I think I do a bit of surrender to the chaos. Or,
hmm.
and I'm not saying this is necessarily always healthy, but it is something that I do know I do, which is to your point of taking yourself out.
Yeah.
I do that escape mechanism. Um, where it can be watching something, but I'm not finding lately it's been reading.
Hmm,
So like reading something that is not it's not lending itself towards like the betterment of my mind or helping people therapeutically. It is for pure enjoyment. It's
hmm,
like reading smut, like just out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes you need to stop the madness, like stop it and get out of it. It can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. I think it it helps. And however
Well, I
you
think,
do that, it is different.
and it definitely differs for people. I know therapeutically, when somebody is potentially spiraling or feeling as if they are, sometimes we give them the tools, like, and we talked about this before in terms of like bringing them into their physical bodies, bringing them into the current
Yes.
moment,
Hmm.
because so often stress, it can be what's happening immediately, but a lot of times in our modern world, it is contemplation of something that happened before,
Yeah.
which I often think about when you're thinking about the past, you can't do anything about it, kind of depresses you.
Yeah.
Or contemplation of what may be to come, which I find agitates you. And I think it takes you into anxiousness. So
Yeah.
if you can bring yourself back within your mind and your body to the here and now, to the present moment, um, there is a certain level of calm that can happen, because there's not really a whole lot you can do about the future. There's only what you can do in the here and now that might impact it. And there's
Yeah.
really nothing you can do about something that happened in the past. There's how
Yeah.
you deal with your reactions and stuff to it in the here and now. So being
Yeah.
present to the current moment, to me feels really powerful in terms of this.
Yeah. It's true.
And we've been trying to do some of our shows so they're a little bit shorter. And I am seeing that we are beginning to approach our time. So,
Yes.
Katie, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? I mean, we're over our 30 minutes, but
No, that's, I mean, for me, that was it, really. I mean, it sounds kind of chaotic because it's like movement or stillness or take yourself out of it or, but I think it just depends on what's you're reacting to. And something like yoga may not work for me for something tomorrow that I'm stressed about, but at least I have a number of things that I can do. I can just go outside and go look at a plant. So,
mhm.
I have a kind of a number of tools in my cabinet, so to speak.
And that one comment that you just made of a number of tools, one of the ones that I had meant to just mention was the chaotic brain. And I think we both talked about how our bodies physically, like we may not have thought we were stressed,
Mhm.
but our bodies physically showed us that
Yes.
something was going on. Again, we may not have caught on to the
Yes.
fact that it was stress. But one of the most powerful things that I recall learning in energy healing school was just the fact that I think there's a concept out there of what meditation is meant to look like for everyone, and how it's meant to be this calming, sitting aspect. And you can meditate while walking. You can meditate while walking. You can
Yes.
meditate seated. I
Yep.
used to meditate while swimming.
Yep.
But one of the things that I found that was most helpful for me was giving my brain something to do. And
Yeah.
so it is a very common meditation out there, which is the body. It's often called the body scan. But the reason I most liked it wasn't so much the information I was getting from my body. It was that it gave my brain something to focus on. And if it went off on a sidetrack, I could come back going, oh, I was at my wrist. Let's start there and go continue on. You know,
Yep.
um, I just want to kind of bookend this with the fact that what we've been talking about and why it might sound a little chaotic is that it depends on you. I don't think that there's one size fits all. There's one way. And to Katie's point, I don't think that the way that worked for you yesterday may necessarily work for you today. It's
Yep.
about finding what does work for you. It's about having those tools that you can pull out. And it's about testing them out. It's about figuring out what
Yes.
does work for you. And I do want to commend Katy for starting this out with thinking about recognizing stress. Because again,
Yeah.
we live in a society, I mean, I think I've mentioned this before, but there's a saying that serfs had more vacation days than Americans do. So we live in a society that almost, I don't know if it rewards us for being stressed, but it definitely pushes to stay on, to stay going, to stay
Push
moving,
through.
push through. And so being able to take care of yourself in the way that you recognize what is stressful to you, and you have tools that you can pull out and use in differing times and places is incredibly helpful.
Yep. I agree.
So thank you guys so much for joining us for our winding conversation on ways to lower one's stress levels. We hope that you find this useful. And please let us know. Let us know what you think. Let us know what works for you. I've said this before, and I think Katy agrees. We like to learn. So if there's something that you're finding that works for you, share it. Maybe it's one of the ones that we can test out. So thank you.
Thank you.